that the city could fit within its fence line. The ranch is the largest expanse of private land in California. It's both an agribusiness and a major real estate company, and we're joined by the manager of the livestock there, Seth Scribner, and Ranchbot's Andrew Coppin. Seth, great to have you in Australia for your first time.
Yes, we're happy to be down here. We've been in the country about 3 days so far already. And
tell us a bit about the ranch.
So the ranch, we're grazing tenants on the ranch, which a lot of California and the western United States tends to be more grazing leases than actually property owners grazing their own cattle. We're, like you'd mentioned, about an hour and a half away from LA, so that creates an interesting dynamic. But when you're there on the ranch, you wouldn't know. It could probably drop in any western landscape.
It is so interesting that you have this expanse of land right next to one of the best known cities in the entire world. Tell us about the real estate component, and you're on the NASDAQ, is that right?
Yes, so Tejon, and we're a separate entity from Tejon. We just lease the grazing rights from them, but they are publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange. And a big part of that model is they've retired through a conservation easement a lot of the lands that will never be developed there for in perpetuity, which means it will stay in grazing, which we're happy to hear about because we'll be there providing the cattle to graze those lands.
The grazing operation, tell us about the cattle you run there. Who are your customers? How does the operation occur?
So we're a big commercial cow-calf operation. Run about 4,000 mother cows there under the entity Centennial Livestock. The cattle come down to the lower elevations in the late winter, and then in the summertime we go up to the high elevations to about 5,000 feet of elevation. So big difference there.
Seth, do we have anything back in the US that is comparable to Beef 2024?
Not that I'm aware of. From what I've seen so far, this looks like a great one and only type event, so happy to be here.
We're delighted to have you over. You're also a fan of Aussie agtech. You're using some of it on your property.
Yes, so big inspiration to get down here was Andrew with Farmbot, and I've always wanted to come my entire life, and he was the kind of catalyst that just help get us along. Two major issues we have in the western United States is water and labor, and Farmbot goes a huge ways in helping us with that water component. We kind of have a saying there in the U.S., whiskey's for drinking, water's for fighting over, and it's the truth. We have a lot of water regulation.
Hey, Andrew, Farmbot, the Australian agtech success story that is now in the US, known as Ranchbot. Of course, you had to do a brand change. It wouldn't have translated otherwise. Ranchbot, how have you gone about getting customers over there? What's the response been? Have you had to tweak the technology?
Yeah, well, apart from just tweaking the name, because obviously a farm and a ranch in a US context are two different things. We've been working with people like Seth and the universities and researchers and everyone in the US as we've rolled out. We're now building Ranchbot, the US version of our product in Texas, and we've opened an office in Texas and have 12 people on the ground over there. So, like Australia, ranchers listen to ranchers, and so it's been great to have thought leaders like Seth, who's been an early adopter and has taken our technology and helped us get other ranchers to understand the benefits of remote monitoring.
At one point in the agtech evolution in Australia, you could see that farmers a few years ago were getting a bit kind of change weary. Oh, which one do I use? What do I use? Oh, they're not really fully baked when they were coming out. I feel like that sentiment has totally shifted now. But let's talk about the economics of it, because agtech is an investment. How do you qualify, the cost of the way we've always done it with the cost of the way of doing it with agtech?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously there's lots of different sorts of ag tech. In our instance, the issues that we have here in Australia, hard to find labour, petrol is very expensive, the wear and tear on motor vehicles is very expensive. So the economics and the ROI around remote monitoring of water is pretty straightforward. And in America, the issues are the same. I
would echo that. You have the cost side of the labor. We also have a lot of liability in carrying that labor force. And so anytime we can outsource to ag tech, it's an easy decision.
I'm curious to know what is on the cards for taking an American tourist around beef. How do you make sure that Seth has the most wonderful experience while he's here?
Yeah, well, I don't know if he's your typical American tourist because, he's one of the best beef operators in the US, so he'll know more about what's happening in the fields here than I may. But yeah, we're here for the next few days looking around beef, and then we're doing a road trip out to Central Australia to look at some of the big operations out there with Seth and his family and some other American customers of ours. So we're excited to show them how the Australian beef industry works, and I'm sure they'll go home as strong advocates and you know, a lot better for the experience, and share their knowledge about how they do things with Australian operators as well.
Well, today out in the centre ring, Seth, you're going to enjoy watching our Draft Master classes. We've got our Gelvies coming out today. A really fantastic day in the ring. What are the breeds of cattle in the US or in California that are particularly prevalent to where you are?
Our industry is heavily vested in Angus genetics right now, and a lot of that has to just do with consumer consistency on the retail end. And there might be some other breeds that have a more practical role on the ranches, but the marketing seems to take precedence with kind of that Angus-based Carcat merit genetics.
It's been so great to catch up with you, Seth Scribner, all the way from California, and Andrew Coppin from Farmbot. Thanks for joining Beef TV.
Yes,
Thanks so much.
Well, up next, the famous gut-to-gate conversation. The nutritionist who says, yes, there's ice cream, there's baby formula, let's talk about the nutrition of all of them. But red meat, where does it fit into the diet in 2024 and beyond?
This is Rock.